Well, I've got this little dash mount in my car, and I just decided to just plug in my iPhone and talk away while I'm doing this driving. I'm driving down to a gig, and it's about a 3-hour drive. It's not too bad at all, but you know, it's kind of lonely just sitting here. So then I was thinking, hey, why don't I just talk to my Flowtricks crew? So hello? I wanted to talk about what it's like to be a performer, besides the fact that it's awesome. Being a performer and being a spinner are two totally different things. It's something to think about, because when you're a spinner, it's about how things feel to you, right? Something that feels good to you may not necessarily look as good to the audience, and vice versa. What looks great to an audience may not feel good to you. That's one thing to consider, is if you are a performer, you think about your audience. You think about your audience and what you're communicating to them. Just like if you were a storyteller, I mean, if you write for yourself, you write for your own pleasure, right? And then if you write for other people, or if you want to tell a story, you have to consider how you can kind of blend both of it. Your passion for what you do and how the crowd will interpret what you do, and what's in between that, between what the crowd interprets and what you want to convey and all the techniques that you love. Right in the middle is going to be where your performance style actually is. So no matter what idea you have about it, really it's the way the crowd sees it, the way the crowd interprets it. So there are some things about performing that you should consider, and I was thinking about, why don't we just talk about it while I'm driving here. The first thing you want to consider is the fact that when you're spinning for yourself, it's about what feels good for you, which is usually difficult techniques that you finally nailed. It's also just about being in that zone and just blasting music and spinning away, right? Well, as a performer, you're going to be conveying something, like a story or a feeling, or you're basically, the idea of being a performer is to transport your audience away completely. Just like how you transfer yourself away, right? So what you want, instead of what feels good, is what visually takes them away, right? And you're going to take them away in different aspects, in different ways that you present yourself. So the first thing you should think about is your character. Now, if you've ever watched the movies, you'll notice, for instance, if you watch any action movie, you're going to notice right away that action movies are very far-fetched. Like when you see someone get punched, they fly 20 feet in the air, or they'll dodge every bullet, etc., etc. It's because you have to exaggerate in order to really get the effect anymore. As a matter of fact, if you don't exaggerate your emotions or your characters, it's really easy to get lost in a sea of characters and movies, and that's why a lot of the movies are just silly over the top, but you do have to find that balance. So think about a character, something that you love about spinning or yourself, and then exaggerate that and create a character persona off of that, like a superhero character, like I am a fire ninja, right? And then I think, okay, well, how can I make myself more awesome, more over the top, more crazy? You know, there's makeup that's involved. Like I wouldn't normally wear makeup, right? So there you go. That's kind of the example. But when I do performances, makeup is definitely something you want to consider. A good costume, something that reflects the way that you want to be seen as in whatever story you want to tell. And then also thinking about techniques as like words to tell your story or your emotion or your feeling, to transport them away. As much as you want to do the hardest techniques, sometimes it's better to do the simple things that the crowd can visually relate to more. For instance, I can tell you, man, some of the hardest moves that you can do, the crowd will not be able to relate to. Of course, this depends on your crowd too. If you're spinning for a bunch of nunchuckers, we're all going to notice your crazy, sick moves. But if you're doing it for an audience, they don't know what's difficult and what's hard. A lot of them think they have figure eight wrist roll is like the epitome of insanity, you know, and for us, that's like the basics. But if you do a complicated move, I could give you a piece of advice, which is to do it slowly, or to do it in threes. And what I mean by threes is you slowly introduce the move. You can either do the same move 3 times in a row. This feeds it to your audience, and they're going to catch it a little bit differently each time. You see, every time the audience sees something new, their minds have to register what exactly they saw. So if you go too fast and you don't repeat it, their brain will just be like, bleh, I don't know what I saw, and it'll just keep going. But if you repeat it, that gives the audiences time for their brains to like latch on to what you're doing, and you're essentially kind of educating them through that repetition. It'd just be like I was trying to teach you something, and I just kept talking and talking and talking, and expected you to memorize all that I said. No, but instead what I do is I may talk about it, I may bring it up. So, for instance, if you have a technique you really want to show off, first, maybe it's a throw, right? First do it without the throw, or do a similar move, and then do it again, but now add a throw. And then in the final attempt, do it with a throw and a spin to catch it. You know, you build it up. What you're doing is you're educating them. Well, this is what I can do. Okay, well, let's take it a step higher. Okay, now let's take it a step higher. It will definitely go over well if you build it like that, rather than opposed to just going straight into the move and keep going. So I guess that's what I mean by it's different than spinning, because in a way you have to assume that they know nothing about what you do. They know nothing about the arts, so they're just going to go off what their eyes can see. They cannot feel what you can feel. So what feels great to you, they can't feel that. They'll see it in your face. So make sure your face shows it, or make sure your face creates the persona, or make sure you add a pause after you do it so their brain can... You're basically, what you want to think about is giving them, their brains, enough space to register what they saw, because the brain can only move so fast, right? And if they don't know what they're seeing, they're not going to know how to respond to it. So the rule of threes is really good. I use that one a lot. Thinking of your most awesome superhero identity is awesome. Another thing that I could suggest is when you're performing, you do it for them. You don't do it for yourself, right? When you spin, you do it for yourself, but when you perform, you do it for them. So depending on the crowd will depend on what you may want to do as well. For instance, if I spin in front of a bunch of nunchuck people, I'm going to be doing a lot more crazy techniques. But if I'm spinning for a bunch of kids, I'm going to be doing fun, a little bit more fun techniques. I'm not quite sure how else to describe that. I may do a sophisticated spin. I may dress up in a nice tux if I'm like spinning for a certain group of people, but then for another one I may just be wearing my crazy fire outfits and going all out, right? You have to kind of feel out like the different kinds of people and just go for it. Last but not least, if you think about the last thing I just wanted to talk about is if you think about a movie, right? With a movie, you don't just blast them. Like if you think of an action movie, if they blasted you with full action, just went crazy nonstop explosions and people blowing up and the car exploded but they jumped out 5 times. Okay, so throughout the movie, a car has exploded 5 times and they jump out each time and it's in slow-mo. Every time they do that, you're gonna get less of an effect, right? That's why the art of creating a good movie a lot of times has to do with your pacing. So usually, I like to think about creating a performance like a movie. And a lot of good action movies, because I want to be an action hero, a lot of good action movies, you start off with something kind of big. You start off with something that says, boom, hey, I want your attention, so I'm going to do something kind of big, but not the biggest thing I can do. Just like in a movie, if you've noticed, when it first starts off, there's almost always some really cool action scene, and then it slows down, and it gets a little bit, I'm not going to say boring, but it does calm down a bit, because now they have to set the scene, and it's kind of the same thing with performing. You go a little bit big at first, whoosh, now that I have your attention, let me tell you a story, it's kind of like that. So you start the story off, don't do anything too crazy or technical, just get a nice little flow. And of course, there's no rules to this, I'm just giving you a suggestion that you can try if you're nervous about an upcoming performance. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, pow, give them something big, right? But not too big. Basically what we're doing is we're slowly building it up, but we're adding little shock value ramps as we build it up to keep them peaked, to keep them off their toes. Because if they can anticipate where you're going to go, a lot of times it's if they know exactly what you're going to do, it's usually not as exciting. So you want to kind of deceive them by throwing in little tricks that just like blow their mind. And if you're constantly blowing their mind all the time, and you give that little pause so their brains can register it, you will have a pretty good performance. Man, this is long. Another thing I want to talk about is stage fright. People want to know like how they can get over standing in front of a crowd of like 10,000 people. I will tell you this, it's something you condition. It's not if you're gonna get stage fright, you're probably like 99% of us. I used to get it a lot too. The interesting thing is you will always do your best. Well, I should say I've always done my best when I stopped minding about what people thought about my performance. The more I cared about their performance and what they thought about how I was portraying myself, the worse I did. So it's kind of self-defeating to think too much about like, oh my gosh, will they accept me? Will they like me? You just have to go out there and be like, you know, I'm gonna just think about what you can give. I'm gonna give this. I'm gonna go for it. And if your brain's still like, oh my God, what if this? What if this? What if I drop? There's two things. One, maybe you didn't work out your reaction to dropping enough. For instance, you should be practicing making mistakes and gracefully coming out of them. Because if you practiced it, then if something goes awry, your brain will automatically know what to do and you won't freeze or you won't do the wrong thing, so to speak. So it is good to train all the crazy stuff that you can think of that could go wrong, so you have a backup plan or a battle plan if it ever does happen. I totally forgot what I was saying. So it's good to have a battle plan. You want to train. I'm losing my train of thought. I'm just driving along this long road, not the most exciting road. You want to train your mistakes, and also, stage fright. Also, with stage fright, I mean, people want to see you do good. So, the more you second guess yourself, the more you care about the impression that you leave on others, the harder it's going to be for you to leave a good one, because you are essentially thinking about how they're thinking about you the whole time that you should be focusing on what you can give them. And so you kind of deplete what you can give them because you're doing this round circular thinking that it can leave butterflies in your stomach and make you kind of crazy. It took me a while before I got comfortable. I'm pretty much comfortable around any situation now on the stage. It's something that you have to just train though. You gotta train, and you have to be confident. You don't even have to be confident, actually. You just have to think about what you can give them, you know. I think a lot of times we think people judge us harshly, but the truth is the reason why we think people judge us harshly is because we judge ourselves harshly. If you think about this, we judge ourselves much more harder than we judge anyone else. And even if we judge someone else, it's usually like, he's no good, okay, whatever, I'm done, you know. That's about it, the extent of it, but they don't actually go home and rack their brains about why you weren't up to their standards, right? They'll do it to themselves, but they don't do it to others. So a lot of it has to do with your own brain, thinking about, well, the audience, you know, how much they have invested in you, and really they don't have a whole lot to begin with, until you start building a relationship with them, which is usually not the case. I mean, like, there might be a little bit more expectations for an established performer. I'm just kind of rambling right now. I hope you guys find that some of this is useful. Anyone that does performing, though, definitely knows that the division between spinning and performing is huge. It's absolutely huge, and it's really fun because you're like a painter, and now all those techniques that you have learned is now your canvas and your selection of colors that you can do to make whatever you want. That's all I'm going to talk about with performing right now. If you have any performing questions, you can always give me a holler. I've seen quite a bit in my days. I've made mistakes, plenty of them, but the truth is you're gonna make mistakes. You just keep growing. And last but not least, let me just talk about what's going on with Flowtricks really quick. Flowtricks, I am looking to release a regular schedule. Currently, what it looks like, it's gonna be Monday nights at 7 and Thursday nights at 7. I'm gonna start releasing videos again. Monday nights will be the challenge run by Jared, Sean, and Zach. And it's going to be a weekly challenge on our Facebook page. It's awesome. You should totally join it. This will keep you involved with new things, new challenges, new competitions. Just a friendly way to get connected with our community, as well as keep your skills sharp. Now, the Thursday, I'm going to be just doing various videos for Flowtricks. So if you have any recommendations or questions, definitely send me a message. There's a chance, I've juggled the chance of doing 5 videos a week, but a lot of it really depends on the support. What had happened so recently is my hours at my job got cut big time. And now it's up to me to either figure out if I can try to, I mean, I have a window of opportunity to run with this and to be able to spend 20 hours a week making Flowtricks videos. But if I do that, the only way for me to keep food on the table is to get donations. So I did a questionnaire, and it seemed the response was okay, but I'm not sure if I can pull off 5 videos a week unless I had enough substantial donations to be able to make it. Otherwise, I just have to kind of find another gig to keep the finances running in, so I can keep making you guys videos. So as it stands right now, I believe I'm just going to be doing 1 video a week on Thursday, and then you'll have the challenges on Monday. It definitely could change. If you have any other questions though, or you want to talk about how you can help, because I want Flowtricks to expand. I want it to be huge, right? There's a lot of great ideas. It's just, it takes time commitment, and it even takes finances. I mean, even to get a new website, man, there's so much I want to do with that website. I want to get like an RPG system, so you can actually level up your skills, and you can keep a collective entry of all the skills that you've earned, and even have levels, and it would be really awesome. But everything takes time, you know, and patience. Anyways, I think I'm done rambling. Thank you for watching. This has actually kind of helped me get through about a good solid 20 minutes of this driving session. So you guys be good, keep spinning, keep watching videos, I don't know, get more inspiration. It's a great life, man. It's a great life. If you just keep it up, more things will open up. So don't stop. Again, if you have any questions, you can write me. I'm pretty slow though. I'm always busy. You can also join the Facebook group and talk to a bunch of awesome people. Facebook group is Flowtricks Discussion. That's where most of the magic happens. Anyways, you guys have a great upcoming weekend, and I will talk to you guys soon. Take care.